The Origins of Theater. State Standard HS2.T.CR1.A. Investigate historical and/or cultural conventions and their impact on the visual composition of a theatrical work. Drama is the art of telling a story by means of imitation. Theater is an ancient art form. For millennia, art scholars have wondered and theorized about a major question: where did theater come from? Aristotle was an ancient Greek philosopher. He was the first to recognize theater as an art form, analyze its structure, and hypothesize about its origins. In other words, he was the first person who, on record, tried to answer the question, where did theater come from? He concluded that mimesis is innate. Mimesis is a word that means imitation. If you look at the root, you'll see the word mime. And what does a mime do if not imitate the world around them? Innate is a word that means with us from birth. The root of innate is nat, N-A-T, the same root as in nativity or prenatal, both words that refer to birth. So, what does mimesis is innate mean? It means that imitation is a natural instinct. Aristotle is asserting that humans have an impulse, an instinct, a need to imitate the world around us. Do you think he was right? Consider how a baby learns to talk. Their mother and father will get right up in the baby's face and exaggeratedly say things like, "Can you say mama? Can you say dada?" Overemphasizing the syllables and exaggerating their mouth movements, trying to get the baby to do what? To imitate them. And when the baby finally does imitate the sounds and movements they see their parents making, they are rewarded with praise, thereby reinforcing the mimetic instinct. Psychological research into child development has proven that from birth, humans have an impulse to imitate the world around us. Aristotle's hypothesis was correct. Mimesis is innate. He goes on to suggest that performance is a natural evolution of our mimetic instinct, or the urge to imitate what we see. According to Aristotle, then, what we recognize as theater is a basic element of human nature. Of course, it didn't spring out of our minds as a fully rounded art form. Like all art, theater evolved from something more basic. There are two basic ways the mimetic instinct manifests, or makes itself apparent in the real world. Those two ways are ritual and storytelling. In this context, ritual is a series of actions that is performed to appease a deity. Appease is a word that means to make happy, and a deity is another word for a god. So in other words, ritual is something that we do in order to make a god happy. Ritual does not just refer to a series of actions, but the same series of actions done repeatedly. Religious ritual probably started with a coincidence. One guy stubbed his toe, started jumping around, and suddenly it started to rain. He imitated this action, and it rained again. Others saw this happen and began to imitate the first guy. Over time, through lots of imitation, this grows into a serious religious ritual. Ritual has two purposes, and we see elements of those purposes develop into what we would recognize as theater. The two functions of ritual are the transfer of knowledge and influence and control. First, the transfer of knowledge. Rituals help to educate younger members of a tribe about the tribe's shared history and beliefs. It is for this reason that modern churches will often perform Christmas pageants or Easter pageants. It's a way to educate the youngest or the newest members of the religion about events that are important in their religious history. This educational aspect developed into the Passion Play. Passion plays are enactments of stories from religious mythology. The purpose of a passion play is to keep vivid in the minds of the faithful the sufferings and triumphs of a god. In other words, a passion play is there to remind congregants why they worship the god that they worship. The earliest example of a passion play comes from ancient Egypt, around 2000 BCE. This play was about the death and resurrection of the god Osiris. Actors participated in a mock battle between the pretend armies of Osiris and his rival god Apat. According to the historical record, these actors were so intense in portraying their parts that the mock battle turned into a real battle and they actually started killing each other. The second function of a ritual is influence and control. All religious rituals, from the simplest prayers to the most elaborate ceremonies, have an underlying motivation. The person performing the ritual is trying to create some kind of change in the world. Today, we're used to seeing simple prayer. In fact, some people will pray silently without even closing their eyes, and this kind of religious ritual isn't much to watch. However, in ancient times, rituals were elaborate experiences that often involved the whole body. And aside from attempting to create change, these rituals were often entertaining to watch. Rituals that are attempting to influence and control the world around them will often incorporate sympathetic magic. Sympathetic magic is the expectation that one can create change by mimicking the desired outcome. An example of sympathetic magic would be a ritual dance, like a Native American rain dance, where the participants imitate with their feet the smattering of rainfall on the ground in an attempt to get the sky to actually rain. These kinds of rituals are as much a performance as they are a prayer, and we can see in early theater elements of this kind of ritual movement. Of course, sometimes people just wanted to entertain each other or share information without a religious motivation, and that's where storytelling comes in. The second likely root of drama is storytelling. Storytelling is the act of verbally recounting events, often with physical embellishments. The function of storytelling is the transfer of knowledge. The only purpose of telling a story is to share information that I know with someone else. However, we haven't always had the help of verbal communication to do this. Before verbal language, acting out stories was effective communication. In ancient times, it was common for a hunter to go out into the woods and come back to his tribe with a great hunting story, and rather than speak the story, he would act it out with his body. Thanks to this kind of physical storytelling, we see a lot of body acting in early theater.